Now in this box are the wet dreams of a 14-year-old boy from 2014. And to be fair, decade ago me would have been chuffed if this turned up in the post. As the title suggests, it is a gaming PC, but how has it fared 10 years on? Well, let's find out. My name's Andy, and this is Andy's Tech, and we have a pre-built and an eBay special today. So what's inside this chill blast from the past? Well, the specs aren't actually that too shabby considering the age circa 2014-2015, and for what I paid being just £50. This is a pre-built from a company called Chill Blast here in the UK, and to be honest, they haven't done a bad job. It looks well built but has issues and was sold as spares or repairs. It needs a good clean, and the case has this plastic coating which has gone all sticky. At least I hope it's that. It has unplugged things. The main problem though being that it overheats, apparently due to the CPU cooler having a broken fan. But it's clearly not mounted properly, so that might just be the easiest fix in history, and we might just get away with it. So, what did we get? Well, the keen-eyed among you may have guessed we have a H81 motherboard, sporting an i5-4460, so pre-Haswell refresh. Basic board, but the CPU is sporting 4 cores and 4 threads at 3.2 GHz. Not great 10 years on, so any Unreal Engine 5 titles are out, but it should still be able to do something. There's a period correct System Builder's 8GB single stick of DDR3 1600s. Would we expect anything else? No, not really at this point. In the graphical trouser department sits the GTX 960 2GB Zotac edition, verging on potato class these days, but it does still have driver support, and I'll be interested to see what it can do, assuming it's aged better than the i5-4460 that is, but we'll see. There is though a 250GB SSD, which is nice to see that someone must have spec'd this option over a HDD, which was the more popular choice at the time. 500 watt 80 plus power supply from Aerocool, known for their reliability and longevity. Nope, but it seems to work and it's got this far, so I salute you, Mr. Bomb PSU. I do really like the Aerocool Dead Silent case, and I guess it's kind of the forefather of the dual chamber beauties we know today. It does have some cool features like top AIO mounting support and some cool little drawers that pull out, loads of easy access features. And if you compare it to like what Cooler Master were putting out at the time, it does make them seem quite aged. So, CPU cooler fixed, cleaned up, in and out, new thermal paste, and it looks a million times better in my opinion. Well, that's just my opinion. Maybe £50 better. So, let's see how it fares. Let's roll some benchmarks. So first up we have Dota 2 at 1080p medium settings with 75% resolution scale. Now I expected this to do a little bit better than it did, and I was kind of expecting it to be the easiest title to run out of today, but we seem to be having some issues. Now whether that's the single 8GB stick of RAM holding us back, or the little i5 4-core holding us back, but I expected a better result. We did see an average of 65 with a 1% of 34 and a 0.1% of 28. I apologise if you can hear tapping, it's my little dog walking around. But I'm sure I've seen better results with like an Athlon 3000G, but I may be wrong. But nevertheless, it was still a playable experience, and I would probably cap the game to 60 FPS, and you could quite happily play casually like this. So next up, we went for CS2, 1080p low with FSR set to quality. Now this was quite a nice result actually. We achieved an average of 90 with a 1% of 53 and 0.1% of 35. I expected a lot worse than this, as we did test this with the Xeon a few weeks ago, and that was really struggling. It does like cores, and particularly fast cores, CS2 now. Our little GTX 960 is just hanging about in the background at about 40% usage. So if you wanted to play casually, this would be more than acceptable. I think upgrading the RAM to 16GB in dual channel would certainly help us out here as well. But CS2, a pass in my opinion. Next up we have Formula 1 2023, not quite a AAA title, but it's harder to run. Sort of an AA title, maybe, if I can call it that. 1080p low settings with FSR2 set to quality. Now F1 2023 does like cores as well, and it does suffer if you have a weaker CPU, and that's represented in the figures today as well, with an average of 44, a 1% of 33 and 0.1% of 19. Kind of a last gen console experience, I would say, sort of a PS4 standard edition, but again you could quite happily play like this. And I was really surprised, you know, this PC cost £50, which is pretty amazing really. Cap the game to 30 FPS and you'll be having a whale of a time. Now I know people like to say 60, but I mean, if you're working with an older system like this, and particularly a potato PC, you know, capping the game to 30 FPS is going to give you a more enjoyable experience than it bouncing about all over the place. And yeah, something that is bouncing about all over the place is Fortnite. Now Fortnite really doesn't run on 4-core CPUs anymore. The Unreal Engine 5 update, sorry, kind of killed that off. 1080p, low settings, everything turned to low. DirectX 11 with 75% resolution scale. Now initially I dropped in without a frame cap, and as you can see we're seeing about 90 FPS, but the 1% were 1 and the 0.1% were 1, and it was just a total mess. I couldn't do anything, any sort of combat, it just locked up and froze, which is a shame, and because Fortnite used to be playable on low-end systems like this. So I capped the game to 60 FPS, and after a couple more times of dropping in, we did see an average of 58, but again 1% of 2 and 0.1% of 1. Now I was actually able to smash it at this, and I got about 6 kills in on this match before I got taken out, but yeah, 4-core i5 not recommended for Fortnite. Now a result that surprised me quite a bit was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at 1080p with the minimum settings and FSR set to balance. We actually achieved an average of 59 FPS with 1% of 38 and 0.1% of 14. I was really surprised with this result because I expected it again to struggle. Now I believe the minimum required CPU for COD at the moment is an i5 2500K, which is a little bit faster than this, I would say. Actually, I'm not sure, they might be about the same, but I certainly expected a worse result. And I mean, you could slightly overclock the GPU and you would have seen probably just above a 60% average. I mean, it's not an amazing experience, but I mean, for £50 you can get up, get running, and you can play a bit of casual COD. What's not to love? So last up, and the hardest to run title of the day, well, apart from Fortnite that is, we have Cyberpunk 1080p, everything set to low, not the low preset. I went further and dropped all the sliders to low. FSR 2.1 set to balanced, and now I was actually quite surprised here as well. Now Cyberpunk doesn't use a lot of RAM. I never really see it use more than 8GB, so it's quite happy to run on 8GB of RAM. And that kind of shows, you know, we have an average of 41 FPS, 1% of 26 and 0.1% of 24. Now when this game came out, I played it on a GTX 1650 GDDR5 version, medium settings capped to 30 FPS at 1080p, and I had a whale of a time. I loved it, and I played through the whole game like that, so I can recommend it like this. Obviously we are a budget gaming channel, and I'm quite happy to cap things to 30 FPS. So if you wanted to dip your toe into Cyberpunk, you can definitely get away with it with some quite low specs. So that brings us to the end of the benchmarks, and I don't think our little PC fared too badly today. I mean, everything taken into consideration, it is definitely a bit rough around the edges, 10 years on, but it put up a good fight, I think, and I am still honestly quite amazed what such low specs can do in 2024. Now there would definitely be some upgrades on the cards if I brought this PC. I would upgrade the RAM with an extra 8GB stick. These can be had for about £5 these days, and it would make the usability of the system just so much better, and it would improve not only our averages but our 1% lows. Also, it's worth a shout, and that is the Xeon E3 V3s. You can get a 1240, 1230. They're basically the same as an i7, and they can be had for absolutely peanuts. So £20 spent on this system, and it would bring it up to a much better par as a sort of basic entry-level system. But that said, no complaints. I've had fun today, and I think it's £50 well spent. I also had to replace the CMOS battery as well, as that had failed, so I'll have to add £1 in for that. But it's cleaned up now, it's looking a lot fresher, it performs well, and I will be selling it on to someone, and they will have a nice little cheap gaming PC for about the £100 mark. So yeah, thank you for watching today's video. Sorry about the delay in the content. Life has been pretty busy at the moment. We had a death in the family amongst other things, but I do love you guys, and I love making content, and I do miss it, and I will try my very best to get back to a more reasonable upload schedule. So thank you for all the support as always. I love you guys, lots of love, take care, God bless, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.